Hello class, today we're going to talk about simple interest. So we will use our knowledge of using formulas and solving equations to solve for simple interest. Okay, one of the skills that you have to know in order to be able to do simple interest is to change percents back to decimals. Okay, so what I'd like for you to do in this warm-up is change each one of these percentages back to a decimal. Well, how do we do that? Well, if you remember correctly, what we do to change a percent to a decimal is we just take our decimal and we move it 2 places to the left. Okay, it's like dividing by 100. Okay, so 42.8% will be 0.428 as a decimal. So pause the video and change the rest of these to their decimal equivalents, please. Okay, let's see how you did. Okay, 7.5%. Well, we have a decimal right here, so I'm going to move my decimal over 2 places to the left. Any of the empty places that we have, we're going to add zeros in there. So this would be 0.075. Well, what about 8%? Well, 8%, when you look at this one, it doesn't have a decimal in it. So anytime it doesn't have a decimal, the decimal is always at the end. So then, this one we're going to move it 2 places. Again, the empty spot, we're going to add a 0. So 8% is 0.08. 8.96%, if you move the decimal over 2 places, you end up with 0.0896. Well, what about 100%? Well, if we follow the same pattern that we've done, we take our decimal, we find it here at the end, we move it over 2 places, 100% is just equivalent to 1. So if you ate 100% of the pizza, you ate 1 whole pizza. So that will be one of the skills that will be necessary to complete this lesson today. So let's find out about interest real quick. On this slide it says interest is the amount of extra money, and anytime you see the dollar sign it's referring to money, you gain or lose on money invested or borrowed. Okay? When you invest money, the bank is borrowing your money and will in turn pay you with interest. So when you put money into a savings account, they're going to take your money along with everybody else's money that's in the bank, and they're going to use that money to invest to make more money. So they're making money with your money. And then what they do is they share that money with you, and that's called interest. When you borrow money from the bank, they make you pay back that amount plus interest. So they do allow you to borrow money in order to buy big ticket items, like buy a car or buy a house, or something that costs more money than what you probably have on you. Right? So they allow you to borrow money, but in order to do that, you're going to agree to pay all of that money back plus a fee. Okay, which we call interest in this case, for borrowing that money. So today what we're going to look at is one of the formulas that deals with interest, and this is called the simple interest formula. And the formula is I equals PRT, where each of these letters stand for, the I in the beginning stands for interest. So if I take these 3 letters right here and multiply them together, we will end up with an answer of interest. Well, what are those other letters? Well, the P stands for principal, or the original amount that you borrow or invest. So it's the amount that you need in order to buy the car, or it's the amount of money that you actually start off with when you start a savings account, or something to that effect. The R stands for the interest rate. Okay, it is the rate in which we're going to get money. Okay, this interest rate's always going to be in the form of a percentage, but in order for us to be able to use it with our calculator, we need to write it as a decimal. And then T stands for time, or the length of time it's going to take you either to pay back the loan or the length of time that you have kept your money in the savings account. Okay, so in other words, this formula says interest equals principal, the original starting amount of your loan, times rate, times the interest rate, which is going to be in the form of a percent, which we turn to a decimal, times the amount of time it's going to take you to pay it back. Okay? And anytime you have more than 2 letters together, we're going to multiply them, okay, together. Okay? So let's see if we can actually do a math problem. So this particular problem says that we have a loan of $28,000, that we're going to have an interest rate of 7.9%, and we're going to have 3 years to pay this back. So the question is, what is the interest? Okay, so anytime we're going to do a problem like this, I want you to start off by writing the formula. I equals PRT. The main reason why I have you do that is because it asks you questions. Okay, and this one's going to ask you 4 questions. What is interest? What is principal? What is interest rate? What is time? Okay. So some of these you'll have answers for, and one of them you will not. Okay? Take, for example, this first one right here. It says, what is the interest? Do I know what the interest is? And in this case, no, because that's what I'm looking for. So we leave that as an I. Okay, then you say, what is the principal? Do I know the principal amount? Yes, the principal amount is $28,000. So I write 28,000 times. Do I know the interest rate? Yes, I do, 7.9%. But what do we have to do to this? We need to change it to a usable form, a decimal. So I'm going to move my decimal over 2 places. So that's going to be 0.079 times, and do I know the length of the loan? 3 years. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're now going to find the interest, we need to then multiply that together. So let me get my calculator up here. Okay. You move it over into the screen. Oops, what did it do? Oh my goodness. I don't know what it did there. Okay. Oh, I see. Okay, so let me fix this real fast. Sorry about that. There we go. Now we've got the calculator working like I need it to. It's in the screen. So now what we're going to do, now that we have all of our information plugged in, we now just do the math. 28,000 times 0.079 times 3. When we hit the enter, we end up with 6,636. 6,636. Now interest is going to be in the form of dollars, so we need to put a dollar sign on it. So on this loan of $28,000 at 7.9% interest for 3 years term, you're going to end up paying $6,636 in interest. Now, if I wanted to know the full amount of the loan, how much money are you going to pay back? You're going to take your principal, you're going to add your interest to it, and that will give us our total amount that we will have to pay back. So if we were to take $28,000 and $6,636 and add those together, you would end up having to pay back a total of $34,636. Right? So let's try another one. Right? Let's have you do this one on your own. This one we have a loan for $34,100 at an interest rate of 4% for a term of 3 years. So what is the interest? Pause the video and answer this question. Okay, so let's see if we can do this problem. Again, we start off by writing the formula. Okay, so I equals PRT. Okay, again, the question is asking what is interest, so that's the one I don't know. So I equals, do I know the principal? Yes, $34,100. Do I know my interest rate? Yes, I do, 4%, but again, I got to make it usable. So we move the decimal over, and it's 0.04. Okay, and do I know the length of term? Yes, 3 years. All right, so now we take our calculator. Let's see if it'll work this time. We type in the information, 34100, 34,100 times 0.04 times 3. Enter, we end up with 4,092. And again, since we're finding interest, we do put a dollar sign. Now again, if I wanted to know the total amount that I'm going to pay back, we're going to take our principal, $34,100, and we will add our interest to that. And in this case, we would end up with a total amount that we would pay back of $38,192. And that would be our total. Okay, now that's how we find interest. But what if one of these parts were missing? What if I gave you a question like this one, right? Okay, what if I gave you something like this? Now in your assignment today, what they're going to do is they're going to list out the 4 things that we have. And the thing that's got the question mark is the thing that's missing. So in this particular problem, I'm looking for what is the interest rate? What is the rate in which we're going to have to pay things back? Well, again, we're going to start off every question the same way. We're going to start off by writing the formula. I equals PRT. And we fill in our blanks. Okay, the first question it's asking is, do I know the interest amount? And yes, I do. The interest is $480. Okay. Do I know the principal amount? Yes, I do. It's $4,000. Do I know the interest rate? No, I don't, so I just leave it as an R. And do I know the length of time or the term that we have? Yes, I do, 4 years. Now, this we go back to looking at what we did with equations. How do I solve for R? Well, we know the first thing that we could do is we could take these two numbers and put them together, okay, and multiply those together. And then to get that R by itself, we divide both sides by that amount. Well, since we have a calculator, what we're going to do is we're going to do this all in one thing. Okay, so if I know I'm going to multiply these two together and then divide 480 by that answer, why don't I just do that? Okay, so on your calculator, you're going to type in 480 divided by, parenthesis, 4,000 times 4, and then hit the equals key. So let's see if we can do that. Okay, so 480 divided by, parenthesis, 4,000 times 4, close parenthesis, enter, and it gives us 0.03. Okay, so 0.03. Now, I'm looking for an interest rate, and I got a decimal. Well, what do we know interest rate's going to be in the form of? It's going to be in the form of a percentage. So what we do is we take this decimal and turn it back into a percent by moving the decimal back to the right 2 places, and we end up getting 3%. Okay, so the interest rate is 3%. Let's see if you can try one of these on your own. Right. In this question, we know the principal is $14,000. We know the interest rate is 6%. We don't know our time, and we know the interest is $7,560. So pause the video and answer this question. Okay, let's see how you did. We start off by, again, writing our formula. We plug in our information. Do I know the interest? Yes, I do. 7,560 equals. Do I know the principal? Yes, I do. 14,000. Do I know my interest rate? Yes, 6%, but again, I need to change it to a decimal, so 0.06. And do I know my time? No, I don't. That's the one I don't know this time. So just like in the last problem, we're going to take this 7,560, and we're going to divide it by the product of 14,000 and 0.06. Okay, so we will go to our calculator. We're going to type in 7,560 divided by, parenthesis, 14,000 times 0.06, close parenthesis, equals, and we get 9. So that tells us our time is going to be 9. But it's going to be 9 what? Okay, we know time is always going to be in the form of years. Okay? And that's how you do, and that's how you use the simple interest formula.